Hello cinephiles! Welcome to Making Film, where we take an in-depth look at how cinema's greatest artists made their films. My name is Tyler, and today we are taking a look at how Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange got started.
Tell us all about it then.
A Clockwork Orange is perhaps Stanley Kubrick's most controversial film, and one highly praised by the likes of Fellini, Bunuel, and Kurosawa, as well as educational, scientific, political, religious, and even law enforcement groups. But it was really supposed to be a small film sandwiched between two epics, those being the monumental 2001 A Space Odyssey and Kubrick's white whale, Napoleon. Kubrick made A Clockwork Orange because of a delay in the pre-production of Napoleon. An article during that time wrote, "Once A Clockwork Orange is completed, Mr. Kubrick plans to return his attention to Napoleon, an epic-scale treatment of Napoleon's career on which he has been working since July 1968. It is slated to be filmed for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in England and on the continent." When asked about Napoleon in an interview Kubrick gave in 1971, he said, "First of all, I start from the premise that there has never been a great historical film. And I say that with all apologies and respect to those who have made historical films, including myself. I don't think anyone has ever successfully solved the problem of dealing, in an interesting way, with the historical information that has to be conveyed, and at the same time getting a sense of reality about the daily life of the characters. You have to get a feeling of what it was like to be with Napoleon. At the same time, you have to convey enough historical information in an intelligent, interesting, and concise way so that the audience understands what happened." Despite both Kubrick's Lolita and Dr. Strangelove being hits, and earning more than double what they cost to make, Kubrick found it difficult to get financing for Napoleon. He finished the Napoleon script in September of 1969, and by December, he was ready to go. But because of his inability to finalize a deal for Napoleon, he decided to go ahead and adapt Anthony Burgess's novel, A Clockwork Orange. In fact, after A Clockwork Orange was completed, Kubrick went to Burgess asking him to write a novel on Napoleon that he could adapt into a new script. By June 1972, this collaboration ended with Kubrick telling Burgess that his work, quote, "is not a work that can help me make a film about the life of Napoleon." This book eventually became Napoleon Symphony, published in 1974. The main problem with getting Napoleon made was that it was going to cost $5 million, which seems like peanuts today even when you account for inflation, which would bring the total to around $35 million. But in 1969, the major studios were failing and suffering huge losses that would continue over the next 2 years. Compared to the $5 million that Napoleon would cost, the $2 million that it would cost to make A Clockwork Orange seemed like a much safer bet. A Clockwork Orange also followed the late 60s trend of, quote, breaking with long-established taboos surrounding graphic imagery of violent and sexual acts, unusual sexual relations and practices, drug consumption, the improper depiction of religious institutions and practices, and the sympathetic portrayal of criminals and other morally questionable characters.
I'll make me own way. Thank you very much, but it lie heavy on your consciences.
Now that the production code which prohibited this kind of content was replaced with a rating system, audiences were eager to delve into the taboo. The studios had seen this happen with The Graduate, Bonnie and Clyde, Rosemary's Baby, and Easy Rider, which turned into huge hits because of these taboos. The studios were much more willing to roll the dice on the small and transgressive A Clockwork Orange instead of the expensive historical epic that would have been Napoleon. Of course, Kubrick, especially coming off of making the nearly $12 million 2001 A Space Odyssey, wasn't used to making small films. Associate producer Bernard Williams said that when he saw how low the budget was, he said, "Are you kidding?" And Kubrick responded, "I know, but I have to show them that I can make a low-budget feature."
You know, the reason I think that he chose this film was that he'd come off 2001, which had gone way over budget, and, you know, Aubrey, his tenure as the chairman of MGM had come to an end, primarily because of the over costs of 2001. So Stanley decided to make a low-budget film. This was his low-budget film, and he wanted to prove that he could do it, and he could make a great film for very little money, which is what he did.
When asked if he thinks of A Clockwork Orange as a form of relaxation between two very big films, those being 2001 A Space Odyssey and Napoleon, Kubrick said, "I don't think in terms of big movies or small movies. Each movie presents problems of its own and has advantages of its own. Each movie requires everything that you have to give it, in order to overcome the artistic and logistic problems that it poses. There are advantages in an epic film just as there are disadvantages. It is much easier to do a huge crowd scene and make it interesting than it is to film a man sitting at a table thinking. There have been several comparisons made between Kubrick's previous film, 2001, and A Clockwork Orange, including that both are set in the future. 2001 shows a machine becoming like a human, and A Clockwork Orange shows a human becoming like a machine, as well as the juxtaposition between the final shot of 2001 and the first shot of A Clockwork Orange. In the novel, there's a mention of traveling to the moon, in a narration by Alex that reads, "The old Luna with men on it," and goes on to say, "There'll be life like down here most likely, with some getting knifed and others doing the knifing." This seems to ground the awesomeness of the universe and says that, as long as people exist in the universe, evil exists in the universe. There is even a mention of space travel in the film.
Men on the moon, and men spinning around the earth, and there's not no attention paid to earthly law and order no more.
What's interesting is that this isn't the first time that a film adaptation of A Clockwork Orange was attempted. In the mid-60s, there were plans to adapt the novel with the members of the Rolling Stones playing the Droogs. Alex was going to be played by Mick Jagger, who Burgess said, "Looked the quintessence of delinquency." Another interesting bit is that during the time Kubrick was looking for a project to do in the lull to find financing for Napoleon, besides A Clockwork Orange, Kubrick was also considering Arthur Schnitzler's Rhapsody, a Dream novel, which had been recommended to him by his wife, Christiane. Rhapsody would be adapted by Kubrick decades later as Eyes Wide Shut. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned because next time we'll be talking about the screenwriting of A Clockwork Orange. A Clockwork Orange was suggested by my patrons over on Patreon. If you like this stuff, please send $1 my way on Patreon and help me get around demonetization issues. And you'll get to watch the new episodes before everyone else. Click the link here now. Until next time, I'm Tyler. Thanks for watching.